Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
And it's time once again
to recommend things. I'm kidding.
I was worried. I was like, nosebleed much? Vince, what do you recommend today?
I'm recommending an omnibus. That's right, an omniscient bus. No, I'm recommending the Hack and Slash Omnibus Volume 1. I'm actually not entirely done with it, but it's a collection of largely one-shots that happen to be linked up by a running continuity.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's interesting. You don't necessarily have to get the omnibus. They do have the individual one-shots. They do have some smaller trades, so you can save a little bit of cash.
So it's kind of vignette-y?
Yeah,
I didn't know Hack Slash was like that. Okay.
I once met a Sasquatch named Vin Yeti.
Do you just go for a percentage? You just throw as many things at the wall as you can? And
I've often made the analogy of taking a handful of darts and chucking it at the board, and one of them's going to stick.
Yeah, it's not even important if it's funny in your head at the time.
Yeah.
If you got somebody... Now, he might be on the outer fringes. Frankly, if we're talking about a dartboard, he might be on the wall. But as long as you got that guy...
Yeah. Funny and punny are not necessarily the same thing.
No, they're not.
Anyway.
But I like puns.
This book, written by Tim Seeley. Now, for those of you who are saying, who's Tim Seeley?
Yeah.
I've recommended something else by this guy.
Oh.
Love Bunny and Mr. Hell. And
a little bit of G&N trivia for you there.
I loved Love Bunny and Mr. Hell. And when I saw this thing sitting on a shelf for such a good deal, I thought, I can't pass it up. I'm interested to see really what it's about. And so your two main characters are this girl whose first name escapes me because most people call her Hack, because that's her last name. And then there's a big guy named Vlad. And so I thought, well, since there's not a lot of Love Bunny and Mr. Hell floating around out there, maybe this will be something comparable to that. Big dumb guy and pretty chick.
Is it anything like it?
It's actually slightly it's not close enough to actually fill the void, but it's interesting in itself. What this is, for those of you who don't know, is she is born of a slasher. Slashers are think of a horror movie slasher. These things exist within this universe, and these two people go around and hunt slashers.
Oh.
Her mother was a slasher, so she feels some sort of connection to it. And in the very first issue that was written, the very first issue in this, she says, well, why do I have to go hunt these things? Because I'd have to have a 9-to-5 job if I didn't. So she's like...
Now, is this collecting the very first volume of Hack Slash, or is this a later...
I'll admit, I don't know what's in Volume 1. It might be Volume 1 of the ongoing.
Okay.
But I didn't look that deep into it.
I don't know anything about it. I've heard of it. I mean, I've seen it at stores, but I don't know anything about it.
If you go to mycomicshop.com, type in Hack Slash, and you'll get just a long list of everything that's come out, including these. There's at least 3 of them. The 4th one comes out this year. So I was really excited about this. It's really interesting. The only downfall of this thing that I can find is that sometimes she seems like less of a person and more of what a guy thinks a girl who kicks ass would be.
That happens.
So that's forgive the word.
I wasn't even going to mention it.
Yeah, but we have talked about the movie Kick-Ass.
It's true.
So
we totally have. Nice save.
This is true. It's part of the public eye or mindless consciousness. I didn't cuss.
I tell you, I've been working on the skill, and I'm not real good at it yet. I'm trying to get to where I can anticipate it, so that I can put the bleep in on camera while we're talking. So when you get there, you bleep, and then we're good. But it's a skill I'm working on.
It's interesting how that bleep sounds like BAF!
Yeah,
I made it. You didn't cuss. But
it's like learning to juggle. It's not easy.
So I think Love Bunny and Mr. Hell's a little funnier, but this stuff is really solid, and the slashers are largely pretty creative. And here's the deal: I don't like slasher movies. There, I said it. I do not enjoy them. The only thing that I like about them are how creative the slashers are. Whether or not the character's creative, how they kill people, is that creative? That's what makes a slasher movie enjoyable. I'd rather watch a 30-minute slasher movie than I would watch an entire feature film.
That makes a lot of sense.
And because the characters that are being killed are generally not interesting,
Yeah.
the slasher is. But he doesn't have an arc. So why do I care? I just want to see him kill people. Anyway, that's what this is for.
And these days, that's what video games are for, Vince.
This is true. Hey, they should make a Nightmare on Elm Street video game where you just play Freddy.
Or a Halloween video game.
This is true.
Yeah.
Or Jason. Hey, New Line, get a Jason video game out there. That'd be fun. I think it's New Line Cinema that did it.
I think so too.
I'm not entirely certain.
No, I think you're right.
But, where was I going with this?
I don't know.
Okay, so you do have character arcs with Little Miss Hack here, and Vlad, whatever her first name is. I don't know. I've only been reading it for a few days. You can't expect me to know her name. But, so yeah, you get character arcs. It's slightly inconsistent. She starts off as more of an actual person, and that's interesting. And by the time you get to about 2/3 of the way through the volume, she's turned into this person who's just kind of a ball of rage. And granted, that's the point. She's afraid of becoming a slasher because her mother was a slasher. And the idea is that slashers are people who died because they have a lot of rage. So therefore, I guess it is consistent. It's just kind of annoying that she just gets a little angrier as this book goes along.
That sounds really intriguing.
It is intriguing.
I never thought. I'll tell you. Sometimes titles just turn me off, where I don't even look into a premise of something, because I thought, oh, that must just be a gore fest for the sake of gore fest. When I first saw that title, what level is the violence at?
It depends on which issue you're reading. There is quite a bit of gore, so I'm not actually going to show you the inside. Like, if you just flip through it, you can see that sometimes it's really awful, and sometimes it's not awful at all.
So far, though, that's even really at, like, Todd McFarlane Spawn level.
Like, for example, you'll have pages like this, where it's just people. And so you actually... That's interestingly enough. There's a parody. This is an adult book, so there's profanity. There's no exact nudity in this, but they get close sometimes. So there is profanity, there is graphic violence, you do see brains. You're not going to see anything worse than you would see in a zombie film. It's not, since it's all art, it's not quite as... Yes, indeed. Okay. Yeah. But since it's all art, it's not exactly detailed enough to be...
I like the art, though.
Yeah, well, it varies from
issue to issue. It's different. But
some are better than others.
The one I was seeing just now, I thought was cool.
But yeah, the Evil Ernie issue.
Yes.
Yeah. This actually has a crossover with Evil Ernie, who is annoying. I don't like him, but the issue's not bad. And I haven't read it yet, but there's a crossover with Chucky in here.
Really? Mm-hmm. I really want to read this now.
I'll tell you what, I hate Chucky movies.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of excited to see them fight Chucky.
Yeah,
but
I would be too.
Yeah, there's a great thing. I'll show you guys this if I can find it real quick. But they have a parody of Pinhead on a cover, and there it is. And they've put tic-tac-toe on his cross-hatched forehead.
That's great.
That's hilarious. So I think it's witty, I think it's fun, I think it's interesting, and it makes slasher movies more fun. Now for all of the people that are in my Facebook group, Cult of Horrors, that I was invited to join, they're all going to, boo me. But anyway, what do you recommend, Kat?
Well, amusing little tidbit real quick before I go to mine. Did you know that the guy who played the kid from Child's Play all grown up in Child's Play 3 is the same guy who played Jimmy Olsen through most of the run of Lois and Clark.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's who that is. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Right. Anyway, today I'm going to recommend something entirely different. I'm going to recommend...
Now for something completely different.
Yet another book from my library of books on writing, and today I'm going to recommend Writing Science Fiction and Fantasy by Crawford Killian. This is something I've had for a long time. This is one of the first, maybe the first book on writing I ever owned. And I haven't read this in a long time, but it's just what it sounds like. It's specifically, It's specifically about writing in fantasy universes and in science fiction universes, and it goes through all the different tropes, and it goes through the basic models of storytelling. It helps you figure out if you don't pick up on certain things yourself, or if you're trying to decide okay, I want to write a genre story, but I don't know like exactly what model I want to go with, because genre fiction. I mean, just like anything else, there are only so many stories that you can tell. So you start with, you don't have to do this, but a lot of time you start with a model, even subconsciously, and then you put your own spin on it. So if you're writing science fiction, it's going to be an alien invasion story, or it's going to be a futuristic utopia or dystopia, or there's in fantasy there's sword and sorcery, and there's all kinds of different things, and this kind of helps just give you ideas of where to start with some of that stuff, and but it also gives you a great deal of helpful information about just writing in general. For instance, there's always in the context of writing in science fiction or fantasy. So there's a section here on dialogue, and I like this. It says, to see how awful real dialogue is, dig up a copy of the Watergate tapes transcripts. President Nixon and his henchmen were not only crooks, they could barely speak English.
His henchmen.
Your job as a dialogue writer is to convey character and move the story along without bogging down the repetitive mumbling that most people use. How many times have we said this? Like when we were doing our podcast on writing, It's not about writing the way people really talk, it's making it realistic within the context of what you're writing, because not only do you have to make people feel real, but you also have to get messages across,
Yeah.
People have to understand what it's about. There's this nice list here of dialogue hazards. Here are some dialogue hazards to avoid. Too much faithfulness to speech. G as well, like. You don't want to put a lot of stuff in there. It's not real helpful. Unusual spellings. Yeah, not... Yeah, Y-E-A-H. For those of you, by the way, who don't know how yeah is actually supposed to be spelled, because I see this a lot in like when I'm like Skyping with people, or when people are talking like in comments and stuff. Apparently, people aren't taught this anymore. Yeah is Y-E-A-H. That's the correct spelling of yeah. People do it Y-E-H, Y-E-A. Okay, Y-E-A is yay. Like, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, okay? That's
Who is by my side?
That's not yeah, it's yay.
Killian.
Anyway.
Killian's that's actually one of my rants. I have it written down in my list of rants to do, so that's funny that you pointed that out.
And I don't mean to make fun of anybody in particular, but it's one of those things where I'm not judging anybody. I just think that certain things aren't really taught anymore. You know what I mean? Like I don't mean to be anal, but like, we have spellings for different words for a reason. Every incarnation that people use of yeah that's not really yeah is actually another word. There's another word that's what it is.
So, I've seen people use Y-A-Y.
Yay! There's a chapter on symbolism and stuff like that. There's a whole section on getting published, and I even have a second edition. I've not looked at this very much, but I have a second edition of this that comes with a disc.
A frisbee?
No, yeah, okay. It comes with a frisbee with like some web resources and stuff, and I guess some writing exercises and stuff like that. Yeah, these are really good. This is kind of outdated. I think this came out like in the late '90s, so there are going to be some references and things that are kind of old hat now. But I still think it's a pretty good resource if you're wanting to do some genre fiction, and it puts it, like I said, it puts all the real rules in the context of science fiction and fantasy, so that I think that this without coming right out and saying it is making a good. It's been a long time since I've read this, and I don't agree with everything in this. Let me say that there's a few things that I'm like, nah, I don't think so. But for the most part, I think it's making a really good case for genre fiction. Should hold true to most of the rules of just straight mainstream writing. You know what I mean? Just because you're writing a genre piece doesn't mean that you don't need all the stuff you need for a good story, any story. So anyway, I think this is a good resource, and people who are especially first timers, first time out who are trying to write genre fiction, this is a good read.
I think a lot of people, when they just start out, they don't realize that just because you're writing something that's science fiction doesn't mean that you have to focus on the fictional science. Like, this is what I'm writing, so there's going to be portals, and there's going to be aliens, and they're going to be doing stuff.
Yeah, that stuff needs to be your backdrop for characterization. I think what happened. I think you're right about that. I think what happens is people get so fixated on a concept that they think, I have this brilliant idea. As soon as you say, as a writer, I have a brilliant idea, you've shot yourself in the foot. Because when you think that you have this great concept that you think nobody else has ever done before, and you're so fixated on that, I guarantee you are going to you're gonna write something that is trying to work just on that concept, and that's all it's got going for it. And hopefully it's good. you know what I'm saying? Where there's I've always said this. There's concept, and then there's execution, and the execution is the important part. I've seen lots of movies, and I've read lots of books where I didn't really love the ideas, but the execution was good. And so it was still a decent read, even if I didn't think that it was especially clever in the first place, if that makes sense. So, it's not always about being clever. That's not always the most important thing. The story's still got to be a story. So anyway.
You're not Doctor Who, you're writing a story.
Yeah, exactly.
Although Doctor Who stories are often pretty good.
Well, anyway, thanks a lot for watching us recommend stuff. And we'll recommend something for you once again next week. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.